Although Meyer Shank Racing isn't as competitive as our McLaren, guys, can Rosenqvist thrive in an environment with lower expectations and less uncertainty about his future? Kobe, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect situation for Felix Rosenqvist because whenever you're driving for McLaren, you're going to be under a lot of pressure. And as you mentioned, basically every single year of his time with McLaren, he was under pressure. First year didn't go well. You remember he got injured when I guess the throttle hung and he went into the wall really hard at Detroit, ended up missing a race, and he had a horrible finish in the standings. Then the second year he bounced back in a big way, able to keep that seat. And then this year, it's been kind of up and down for Felix. But if every other year you're worried about your job, that's not going to be good for a driver's mental state at all. And when you have the additional pressure on your mind, it's going to be a lot harder for you to focus on the task at hand. And with Felix Rosenqvist been signed to a multi-year deal with Meyer Shank Racing in an environment where he's not going to be expected to go out there and basically be a paddle award, try to match your teammate every other week. I think it'll allow Felix some time to continue growing and maturing as a driver, and to simply focus on driving instead of focusing on how can I match Pato this week, so I can make the team happy, so they'll want to keep me in the future. I can't imagine what Felix has been through these last few years. While it's great to drive for a team like McLaren, it certainly has its cons, especially with all the psychological effects of feel like you're racing for your job every week instead of being able to just mesh with the team and continue to go out there and get the best results. I really do think that this is the best possible situation that Felix Rosenqvist could have found for next year in the years in 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, I totally agree, Kobe. I think that Michael Shank statement says it all, quite honestly, because now he ain't gonna have to worry about if he's gonna have a ride next year, because he says right there he's in a position where he doesn't have to worry, and he's just do whatever he wants and just has some stability. He hasn't had that before. I am curious to see how he'll do as a leader, and we're gonna go into that in the next question in a minute. It's just we haven't really seen him be a leader. I'm not sure if he's capable of being a leader. I mean, I'm not saying he would be a bad leader. It would just be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, I'm glad he's not staying with McLaren, because he would again be in this position next year in 20 at the end of 2024. Like, oh, we want to expand, like that. They want to have that fourth car and everything, and they probably want to have a different driver in there. It was just a bunch of bad energy. I don't think he really felt wanted there necessarily as much as he got along with Pato. I'm glad he's leaving. I think he's going to really excel over at Shank.
Yeah, I agree. He, of course, came into IndyCar, brought kind of in really via Formula E, and Dario Franchitti being the commentator on the world feed, and saw him there and how good he was going, got him into the 10 team. And then, of course, he was teammate to Scott Dixon at CGR. He got a win, but it didn't really click for them. And then you think, oh, he's going into McLaren, team on the up, big changes at that point. But then, the focus was on Pato, and then bringing Rossi in this season has obviously, brought the team forward and strengthened them. But Rosenqvist kind of has always felt like a bit of the third guy there. And as I talked about, looked like he was probably going to be on his way out for the last 18 months, depending on what the Hello situation ended up with. And we've talked about that at length, not just on this show, but on all of the Grid Network programming over the last couple of months. So, as you say, get him in there, get him at the front end of the team. He hasn't had that before in his IndyCar career. I've watched him back in Formula 3 here in Europe, and he was remarkable there for a couple of years, and he's won in pretty much everything he's sat in: Formula E, DTM, Formula E, and now IndyCar, obviously, with that Ganassi win. So let's see what he can do as a team leader, which we'll, as you said, get onto in a minute. Adam says he can see Felix winning at MSR. I think it's a pretty good move all round, as Kobe mentioned. It's good for them to get a young guy in. They've got a bit of not an aged team this year with Simon and Helio, but some fresh blood always mixes things up. Mentioned Pagenaud before, and then again there, it's his Meyer Shank Racing career. It looks like it's going to end with him being tossed through the gravel trap in that warm-up crash he had at Mid-Ohio a couple of months ago. And with the Rosenqvist news coming out earlier in the week, Simon Pagenaud also released this statement. He said, "I would like to wish MSR all the best and to thank Mike Shank, Jim Meyer, and the whole team for the valuable experiences I've gathered through the last 2 years. I wish we could have achieved more together over the last 2 seasons and win races, but we could not make it happen. For now, my goal is to fully focus on myself and recuperating. It's a slow process, and I will continue to work with the doctors to do what is necessary to get my health back to 100%. Thank you for all your continued support and kind messages. So Pagenaud out at MSR then for next season. As I mentioned earlier, it's a completely new driver lineup with Felix Rosenqvist coming in to join Tom Blomqvist as the one experienced hand and one rookie hand at the team next season. Blomqvist will make his third IndyCar start coming up this weekend in the season finale at Laguna Seca. His debut in the championship didn't go well at Toronto, where he got involved in a first lap crash, didn't make it past turn 3 in Toronto and ended up out of the race. Did complete the race at Portland last weekend, though. Valuable experience for him ahead of his rookie season in 2024. When Blomqvist was signed, some wondered who MSR would bring on board as his teammate for next season. A driver with IndyCar experience or another rookie like Linus Lundqvist, who has impressed over the last few weeks as he has filled in for Simon Pagenaud in the 60 car and had a very good run at Nashville last month. But Lundqvist was snapped up by Chip Ganassi Racing for next season to fill the vacated seat by Marcus Ericsson. So does the signing of the veteran, a veteran like Rosenqvist, although he's not a veteran, but he's got plenty of experience, will that help out Tom Blomqvist? And how disappointing is it for Pagenaud to end his Meyer Shank tenure without another race to prove himself after that injury?
Yeah, I was honestly hoping Pagenaud would be able to come back and be in like a nice guide for Tom Blomqvist, but on the other hand, I am glad that Tom Blomqvist isn't just going to be there with Linus Lundqvist, because then you'd have 2 rookies on that team. And Linus Lundqvist will kind of be the leader over there in a weird way because he has more of that kind of open wheel experience. So I'm glad that they didn't end up getting Lundqvist, and I think that's better for Lundqvist as well, going over to Ganassi. So really interesting how this all turned out. I really hope Simon Pagenaud can get another start someday somewhere and make a full recovery, because he had the opportunity to stay with Team Penske. It would have been on the IMSA side of things a few years ago, but he wanted to stay in IndyCar, so he signed with Meyer Shank. And it's unfortunate that this is how this kind of turned out for him. I hope he can make a recovery and come back. But overall, though, I think the pairing of the Quiz, Rosenqvist, Blomqvist, I think that's going to be a strong team. I mean, Felix, I know like I said, I don't know what his leadership skills will be like. We'll have to wait and see. But he has a lot of experience now. I think he'll be able to really pass that on to Tom. And Tom's one hell of a racer as well over in IMSA. So I think that team's going to be really good. I think they'll be in a lot better position than they are now. And of course, they're going to have Elio Castroneves as a driver coach kind of thing, like what he's doing over there. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was a really great idea for Meyer Shank Racing to add a veteran like Felix Rosenqvist. Like you said, Matt, he's not a veteran with all those years of experience. He has a few years of experience in IndyCar, but that's better than none at all, because since Rosenqvist, he knows the ins and outs of IndyCar racing. He'll be able to help guide Tom Blomqvist along. I think that'll be very helpful in Tom's first full season, as we've been talking about for basically most of the season. Meyer Shank Racing's program has taken quite a step back this year, and Tom Blomqvist, as you mentioned, Matt, didn't get to run any laps at Toronto in the race, but good thing he got to run all of Portland. But it was quite a challenge for him. Actually, it wasn't just Tom. Elio Castroneves' car, that team was slow as well. So both Meyer Shank Racing cars had a tough Portland, and plus the type of training it takes, to muscle these physical IndyCar around. It's not the same type of training that Tom does in his sports car program. So that's why I feel like Portland is not a indication of what Tom is capable of in IndyCar. Once he gets into a full IndyCar training program this off season, heading into next year's season opener, I think once he gets that, and plus takes what he's learned in these last few races this year, I think that's going to help Tom out a lot. So he'll be more prepared to race in the IndyCar series in 2024. So I certainly think Rosenqvist and Blomqvist is going to be a great pairing with the veteran and a rookie there who can really help him out. And as we saw from Haas F1 a few years ago, with Schumacher and Mazepin, not really a good idea to put 2 rookies together, because that's a recipe for absolute disaster. And as for Simon Pagenaud, it's extremely disappointing we weren't able to see him return in 2023, but at the same time, I'm really happy he's continuing to listen to the doctor's advice and make sure that he's going to be healthy in 2024. At the moment, it doesn't look like he's going to be in IndyCar next year, which is super unfortunate. But if he's cleared to return to racing, I hope we can at least see him compete in the Indianapolis 500 with a good team, because I feel like he still has plenty left in the tank, and it's really unfortunate to see the situation like this coming, and especially with the driver like Pagenaud, where you don't know where his health is going to be at next season. It really doesn't make much sense for these team owners to, go out signing for a deal, especially if you have a seat open, because if you sign into a deal, there's always a chance that the doctors could be like, you can't return to racing, and then you're like, we've signed this driver to this contract for what? For no reason, because he can't even drive the car. So from a team owner's perspective, I understand why some IndyCar team owners with open seat might shy away from signing Pagenaud to a full-time deal. That's why I believe that his full-time days might be over for now.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be they'd shoot themselves in the foot in one way, wouldn't they? If they'd signed Pagenaud or continued with him for next season, and then he's still ruled out when we get to St. Pete in late March, I guess. We're still waiting for an IndyCar calendar to come out. Hopefully, we'll get that at the weekend at Laguna Seca. And then they'll be scrambling for someone, and it'll be like the last few months of this season where we've had a myriad of drivers come through to fill in. So at least they've got this done early, and wrote the Team Kvist, as I'm sure everyone's going to call them throughout the season, as Alex mentioned, two very, very capable and fast guys in that team, and Blomqvist will get better the more he does. He's been a stud in IMSA the last few seasons. He's got 2 more races to go with the Shank. Well, it looks like with the Shank IMSA team, which might end up being wound up at the end of the season, if rumours are to be believed. They've got Indianapolis in a few weeks' time, and then Petit Le Mans in October. So excited for those 2 guys. Real shame for Simon that he couldn't, again, a bit like Kurt Busch and a bit like Dario Franchitti, not being able to go out on your own terms is a real shame. So I hope Simon, as Alex mentioned, can come back in some capacity in IndyCar, or even maybe in IMSA as an endurance driver in the 4 long races in IMSA over the next couple of years. We'll see.